Alex Reed had never seen so many angry aliens in one room before. The registration hall buzzed with clicks, growls, and what sounded like angry singing. Every species in the galaxy seemed to think they were the toughest, and they were all here to prove it. The Galactic Survival Circuit was famous across 1,000 worlds. Any species that wanted to join the big trading networks had to pass this test first. 30 days on a death world with almost nothing. No technology, no help. Just you against a planet that wanted you dead. Alex stood in line behind a massive reptilian creature named Breck. The Saurian kept flexing his claws and hissing at anyone who looked at him. In front of Breck was Ula, a blue-skinned tideborn who kept moistening her skin with a spray bottle. An insectoid hiver named Click stood nearby, its compound eyes tracking everything with mechanical precision. Human. Breck turned around and looked down at Alex. You seem small. Weak. Why are you here? Alex smiled. Same reason as you. Trade agreements. My company wants to expand. Your company will need a new representative in 30 days. Breck laughed, showing rows of sharp teeth. Humans are new to the galaxy. You do not know what real survival means. A hologram flickered to life at the front of the hall. 3 alien council members appeared, their faces stern and official. The middle one, a being that looked like floating crystal clusters, spoke in a voice that echoed. Welcome to the Galactic Survival Circuit. You have all volunteered to prove your species worthy of advanced trade status. The challenge is simple. Survive 30 days on planet Red Rock. This desert world has extreme temperatures, minimal water, dangerous predators, and toxic plants. You will each receive 1 survival knife, 1 water container, and 1 emergency beacon for life-threatening situations only. Misuse of the beacon means disqualification and shame for your species. The hologram changed to show a red wasteland. Massive canyons cut through endless desert. Strange 6-legged creatures prowled between rocks. The sun looked too large and too angry. Most species lose 20% of their body weight during this challenge, the crystal being continued. Many quit by day 15. Some do not survive even with the emergency beacon. This test has run for 3,000 years. It separates the strong from the weak. Alex raised his hand. The council members looked surprised. Questions are not customary. Is there a weight limit on what we can build? The council members consulted each other silently. You may build whatever you can from available materials. Why do you ask? Just planning ahead, Alex said cheerfully. Breck snorted. The human plans to build a coffin. 2 hours later, Alex stood in the transport ship with 19 other participants. Everyone looked nervous except Click, who did not seem to have emotions, and Alex, who was sketching designs on a piece of paper. What are you drawing? Ula asked, leaning over. Her voice sounded like water flowing over rocks. Ideas, Alex said. Just thinking about the terrain and what might work well. For survival? Sure, that too. The ship dropped through Red Rock's atmosphere. Heat washed over the viewports. The planet looked even worse up close. Red sand stretched forever. The rocks looked sharp enough to cut skin. Nothing green grew anywhere. They landed in a flat area between 2 canyon walls. The moment the door opened, heat slammed into them like a physical force. Alex guessed it was at least 50 degrees Celsius, maybe more. Participants, you have 30 seconds before the ship departs, an automated voice announced. Your survival period begins now. May your species prove worthy. Everyone grabbed their supplies and scattered. Breck ran toward the largest canyon, probably looking for shade. Ula headed for a depression that might collect water. Click moved with purpose toward a rock formation. Alex stood still for a moment, turning in a slow circle. He shaded his eyes and looked at the sun's position. Checked the wind direction, examined the rock colors and the sand patterns. Then he smiled and walked toward a spot where 2 canyon walls created a natural corner. By the time the sun started to set, most participants were still searching for basic shelter. Alex could see Breck wedged under a rock overhang, looking miserable in the cooling evening. Ula had found a small cave but kept coming out to check the darkening sky nervously. Alex had cleared a flat area and started arranging rocks. Not just piling them randomly, but actually placing them in rows with gaps for airflow. He had gathered a particular type of dry brush that burned slowly and gave off a pleasant smell. A small fire crackled in a ring of stones. Alex sat on a flat rock he had positioned specifically to catch the last rays of sunlight. He was roasting something that looked like a root vegetable over the flames. High above the planet in the monitoring station, Three council members watched their screens in confusion. The human is not exhibiting standard stress behaviors, the crystal being observed. Perhaps humans do not understand danger, suggested a four-armed council member. No, said the third, whose species looked like intelligent fog. Look at the shelter foundation. Look at the fire placement. The human understands perfectly. That is what concerns me. On Red Rock, Alex took a bite of the roasted root. It tasted like a potato mixed with celery. Not bad at all. He made a mental note about flavor profiles and continued building his rock wall as the stars came out. Day 1 was complete. 29 to go. Alex looked at his growing shelter and thought about water collection, garden placement, and whether the canyon walls would make a good echo for music. Surviving was easy. The real question was whether he could make this place actually comfortable. Breck, watching from his miserable overhang, wondered if the human was insane. That thought would change in the coming days. The second day of the survival challenge started with screaming. Not human screaming, but the desperate wail of a tideborne who had lost most of her water supply to a leak in her container. Ula's cries echoed across the canyon, filled with the despair of someone who knew what dehydration meant on this planet. Alex heard it from his growing shelter and sighed. He had been up since dawn, working on what he privately called the porch. The structure now had 3 walls of carefully stacked rocks, a roof made from woven dried grass laid over a wooden frame, and several ventilation gaps that caught the breeze perfectly. Inside, he had smoothed the sand floor and lined it with flat stones. But Ula's crying meant his plans for the day would change. He grabbed his water container and walked toward the sound. The journey took 20 minutes across loose sand and sharp rocks. When he reached Ula's cave, he found her curled up, her blue skin already looking dry and cracked. Here, Alex offered his container. Drink half, just half. Ula looked up with large, dark eyes. You will die too if you share. I will not die, Alex said calmly. Drink. She drank, and color returned to her skin almost immediately. How can you be sure? Water is life here. Water is everywhere here, Alex corrected. You just have to know how to collect it. Come on, I will show you. Back at his shelter, Alex demonstrated the solar still he had built the previous evening. A hole in the ground, lined with large leaves from a thick-stemmed plant. A water container at the bottom. A clear piece of material stretched across the top, weighted down with a rock in the center so it formed a cone shape pointing down into the container. The sun heats the ground, Alex explained. Moisture evaporates, hits the clear cover, condenses, and drips down into the container. By evening, you have clean water. You can also add any plant material that is not toxic to increase the moisture. Ula stared at the simple device. This is allowed? This is not technology? This is just understanding how water behaves, Alex said. Now help me make one for you. They spent the morning building a still near Ula's cave. As they worked, Breck appeared, looking suspicious. What is the human doing? He demanded. Teaching, Ula said happily. The human knows water magic. Not magic, Alex corrected again. Just simple science. Want me to show you? Breck's pride warred with his thirst. Thirst won. By afternoon, 3 solar stills operated across the survival zone. Alex returned to his shelter and continued working. He had bigger plans now. The basic structure was solid, but it needed improvement. He gathered flexible branches and wove them into a door that could roll up during the day and close at night. He created storage cubbies in the walls for his supplies. He even built a small bench outside where he could sit and watch the sunset. Click the Hiver arrived on day 4, drawn by curiosity. The insectoid stood at the edge of Alex's camp and observed everything with those unblinking compound eyes. Your survival efficiency exceeds requirements by 240%. Click stated in a buzzing voice. This is illogical. You expend energy on non-essential construction. Not non-essential, Alex said, carefully planting seeds from an edible plant he had found. I need to be here 30 days. I might as well be comfortable. Comfort is not part of the test parameters. Comfort is always part of life parameters, Alex replied. At least for humans. Would you like some food? I made extra. Click had no concept of refusing free resources. The Hiver sat on Alex's bench and accepted a bowl of stew made from roots, edible plants, and some kind of lizard Alex had caught. The food was surprisingly good. You have added flavoring plants, Click observed. Nutritionally unnecessary. Taste is important, Alex said. Makes you happy. Happy people survive better. Click processed this statement and found no logical counterargument, which seemed to bother the hiver greatly. By day 7, Alex's shelter had become something else entirely. The walls were decorated with patterns he had etched into the rocks. The roof had multiple layers for insulation. Inside, he had created a sleeping platform raised off the ground, with dried grass padding covered by woven plant fiber blankets. He had even made a primitive lamp using plant oil and a woven wick. The garden outside showed tiny green sprouts. The solar stills produced more water than he needed, so he used the excess to irrigate. He had built a small wall around the garden to keep out the 6-legged creatures that roamed at night. On the monitoring station, the council members had stopped watching the other participants. All 3 screens focused on Alex's camp. The human has constructed furniture, the crystal being said in disbelief. The human has constructed a home, the fog being corrected. There is a difference. Should we stop this? Asked the 4-armed council member. This seems against the spirit of the challenge. What rule is being broken? The crystal being asked. We said they could build whatever they wanted from available materials. The human is following the rules. Then why does it feel like we are losing control? They watched as Alex stepped back from his latest project, a crude but functional table and chairs set up outside his shelter. He sat down, poured himself a cup of water with herbs steeping in it like tea, and sketched more designs in the sand with a stick. Breck had given up pretending he was not watching. The Saurian now openly sat on a rock overlooking Alex's camp every evening, studying everything the human did. His own shelter had improved significantly using Alex's techniques. Though Breck would never admit he was copying, Ula visited every day, bringing interesting plants she found and asking Alex's opinion on their uses. She had started her own small garden near her cave. Even Click stopped by regularly, claiming it was to study human illogical behavior patterns, but always staying for a meal. On the 7th night, Alex sat on his porch looking at the stars. The temperature had dropped to something almost pleasant. His shelter was warm inside from rocks that had absorbed the day's heat. His water containers were full. His food supplies were growing in the garden. He was clean, having figured out a shower system using a bag with holes punched in it. He pulled out a piece of bark and some plant-based ink he had made. Using a sharp rock as a pen, he began to write. Red Rock Survival Resort. A unique vacation experience for the adventurous traveler. Learn ancient survival skills while enjoying modern comfort. 30-day packages available. Pricing to be determined. Below the text, he sketched a logo, a small shelter against canyon walls with a sunset behind it. It was just a joke, really, something to pass the time. But as Alex looked around at what he had built, at the other participants who now had better shelters and more confidence, at the beautiful, harsh landscape that had become almost homely, he wondered if maybe it was not such a joke after all. People paid for adventure vacations all the time. Why not this? The thought made him smile as he went inside his comfortable shelter and slept peacefully through the cool desert night. Day 8 began with Alex measuring distances. He walked from his shelter to the landing zone where the transport ship had dropped them off. Then he walked to the nearest water source, a small spring Ula had discovered in a hidden canyon. Then to the best viewpoint for watching the sunset. Then to what he privately thought of as the entertainment area, a flat stretch of sand surrounded by eco-friendly rock walls. Ula watched this strange behavior with growing confusion. She had come to bring Alex some purple berries she had found, hoping he could identify them. But the human was too busy pacing and counting steps and making marks on pieces of bark. Alex, have you gotten sun sickness? She asked carefully. You are acting strange even for a human. Alex laughed. I am acting perfectly normal. Well, normal for a human with a business idea. Tell me something, Ula. Would you ever want to come back here, after the 30 days are over? Ula made a sound like bubbling water, which Alex had learned meant disbelief. Come back? To this nightmare planet? Why would anyone do that? Because it is not a nightmare, Alex said, gesturing around. Look at it. Really look. Those canyons are beautiful. The sunsets are amazing. The stars at night are incredible because there is no light pollution. And now that we know how to survive here comfortably, it is actually kind of nice. Nice? Ula repeated the word like it was alien to her. Alex, 3 of the other participants have already quit. They used their emergency beacons and left. This place is trying to kill us. This place is challenging us, Alex corrected. There is a difference. And people pay good money for challenges. Think about it. Wealthy aliens who want to test themselves but safely, who want to say they survived a death world but without actually risking death. We could offer that. Ula sat down on a rock, her blue skin rippling with emotions Alex could not quite read. You want to turn this survival test into a vacation? A survival resort, Alex said, warming to his theme. We already have the basics figured out. Shelter design, water collection, food sources, safe zones. We could offer different experience levels. Easy mode with lots of guidance. Medium mode with some help. Hard mode for the real adventurers. We could charge based on the difficulty level. The council would never allow it. Why not? We are not breaking any rules. After the test is over, this planet will just sit here empty until the next challenge in 6 months. Why waste it? And think about the publicity for the galactic survival circuit. Instead of being this scary thing that most species avoid, it becomes famous, desirable. People would line up to try. Ula processed this. Her species was known for being emotional and intuitive, and right now her intuition was telling her something surprising. You are serious. You actually think this could work? I know this could work, Alex said confidently. I have been in the hospitality business. People love controlled adventure. They love bragging rights. Imagine some wealthy merchant telling his friends that he survived on Red Rock for a week. That is worth money. Click arrived at that moment, having overheard the last part of the conversation. You wish to monetize the survival experience. Interesting. I calculate a 67% probability of commercial success if properly marketed. See? Alex pointed at Click. The logical species agrees with me. I did not say I agreed, Click buzzed. I merely ran probability calculations. However, the data suggests merit to your proposal. What would you require to implement this plan? And just like that, Alex had his first investor meeting. They spent the afternoon discussing details. Location for different difficulty zones, safety protocols, pricing structures, equipment rentals versus included amenities. Click's logical mind helped refine the ideas, while Ula's emotional intelligence pointed out what would appeal to different species. Breck showed up eventually, attracted by the unusual gathering. When they explained the concept, he was skeptical at first, but then Alex pointed out that Breck could be head of safety and security, teaching people how to avoid predators and handle emergencies. The Saurian's ego responded well to that suggestion. I could teach them proper survival techniques, Breck said slowly. Not this soft human approach, but real skills. Both approaches, Alex said diplomatically. Some people want real challenge, some want comfort. We offer options. That is good business. By day 10, Alex had covered multiple pieces of bark with plans and sketches. He had created a primitive map of the area, marking good building sites, water sources, interesting geological formations, and scenic views. He had written out activity schedules, meal plans, and safety procedures. He had also started building what he called the Welcome Center. It was larger than his personal shelter, with open sides to catch the breeze and a high roof for shade. Inside, he set up demonstration areas showing how to build a solar still, start a fire, identify edible plants, and construct basic shelter. It was part museum, part training facility. You know the challenge is not over yet, Ula reminded him on day 12. We still have 18 days to survive. I know, Alex said, adding decorative stones around the Welcome Center entrance. But after we pass, I want to be ready to pitch this properly. First impressions matter. Day 15 was when everything changed. The galactic monitoring feeds were public. Anyone could tune in to watch the participants struggle and suffer. It was considered educational entertainment, showing what real survival looked like. Most feeds had low viewership because watching being slowly dehydrate or starve was depressing. But Alex's feed was different. Someone on a trading station had noticed the human's strange behavior and posted about it on the galactic network. The post had gone viral. Suddenly, millions of beings were tuning in to watch the human who seemed to be on vacation instead of fighting for survival. The comments ranged from confused to angry to amused. Is the human broken? Does it not understand the challenge? This species passed the intelligence test. Really, look at that shelter. It has a porch. What kind of survival skills include porch construction? I want that human's confidence. It acts like it owns the planet. The council members were in emergency session, watching Alex give Breck advice on interior decorating while Ula and Click worked on expanding the garden. "This has never happened before," the crystal being said. "The challenge is becoming a spectacle. A profitable spectacle," the fog being noted. "Our viewership numbers are up 3,000%. Advertisers are calling. We are receiving inquiries," the four-armed council member reported, reading messages on a display. "A Plutonian merchant named Gron wants to know about investment opportunities. Several resort companies are asking about licensing rights. A media network wants to do a documentary." Alex, unaware of the chaos he was causing in the wider galaxy, was using the emergency communication channel. The automated voice reminded him this was for life-threatening situations only. "This is a life-threatening situation," Alex argued into the communicator. "We are about to lose valuable business opportunities due to lack of proper communication. I need to speak with someone about commercial licensing for this location." "That is not the intended use of this channel," the automated voice responded. "Look, either I talk to someone now, or I spend the next 15 days building a giant advertisement that will be visible from orbit. Your choice. I have a lot of rocks and a lot of time." There was a long pause. Then a different voice came through, sounding tired and confused. It was one of the council members. "What exactly do you want, human?" Alex smiled. This was what he was good at. "Let me tell you about an exciting business opportunity that benefits everyone involved." He pitched the resort idea for 20 minutes straight. The council member listened in growing astonishment. When Alex finished, there was silence. "Then you are serious. You genuinely want to turn our Sacred Survival Challenge into a vacation resort. Sacred Survival Challenge that could also generate significant revenue for the council while promoting the test to a wider audience and creating jobs for participants who pass," Alex corrected. "It is win-win-win. This is highly irregular. This is highly profitable," Alex countered. "And I have 15 days of footage proving the concept works. People are already interested. Strike while the iron is hot, as we say on Earth." Another pause. "We will consider your proposal. Now stop misusing the emergency channel." "Pleasure doing business with you," Alex said cheerfully. He returned to the welcome center where his friends were waiting. "Well?" Ula asked nervously. "They will consider it," Alex said. "Which means they have not said no. Which means we have a chance. Now let us make sure this place looks absolutely perfect for when they come to inspect." Breck shook his head in amazement. "You humans are insane. I thought you were here to prove your survival ability. Instead, you are trying to sell property on a death world." Alex grinned. "Who says we cannot do both? Day 15, and I am not just surviving. I am thriving. We all are. And that is exactly what we are going to sell." High above, the viewership numbers continued to climb. The galaxy watched and wondered what this strange species would do next. The messages started arriving on day 17, not through the emergency channel this time, but through the standard observation system that allowed outside communication during designated hours. Alex had not expected anyone to use it. Most participants were too busy surviving to check messages. Most watchers were too disgusted by the suffering to send encouragement. But Alex's situation was different. Ula brought him the first batch of messages, displayed on a small viewer that the council had activated. Her eyes were wide with shock. "Alex, you need to see this. All of this." The first message was from a resort chain called Paradise Unlimited. "We represent luxury accommodation services across 47 systems. Your demonstration of comfort-focused survival has caught our attention. We wish to discuss partnership opportunities." The second was from a media company. "Our network reaches 2 billion viewers. We would like to produce a documentary series about your methods. Preliminary title, Surviving in Style. Please respond if interested." The third was from a university. "The Department of Xenopsychology wishes to study human recreational behavior in hostile environments. Your techniques challenge our understanding of survival instinct versus comfort-seeking behavior." There were hundreds more. Investment offers, franchise requests, interview proposals, even a few marriage proposals from beings who found Alex's confidence attractive. "This is insane," Ula said. "You have been here 17 days and you are already famous." Click appeared, moving with unusual haste. "The Galactic Network trends show your name in the top 5 search terms. You have more mentions than the current emperor of the Talgran system. Statistically improbable for a participant who has not yet completed the challenge." Breck climbed down from his usual watching spot, looking annoyed. Someone made a betting pool about whether you will survive or open a restaurant first. The odds favor the restaurant. This is disrespectful to the challenge. Alex read through more messages, his smile growing wider. This is better than I hoped. The publicity alone is worth millions. Now we just need to capitalize on it properly. How? Ula asked. You are stuck here for 13 more days. Stuck? I am exactly where I need to be. This is the perfect testing ground and marketing demonstration all in one. Alex stood up and looked around at his companions. Here is what we are going to do. We are going to spend the next week making this place absolutely perfect. We are going to document everything, and we are going to show the galaxy exactly what humans mean by survival. Day 18 through 23 became the busiest period of the entire challenge. Alex organized his team with the efficiency of a project manager, which he actually was back on Earth. Breck was assigned to security demonstrations. The Saurian built a perimeter warning system using rocks and dried plants that would rattle if predators approached. He created a guidebook on local fauna, noting which creatures were dangerous, which were merely territorial, and which could be safely observed. He even captured a young six-legged lizard creature and successfully tamed it enough to demonstrate proper handling techniques. Ula took charge of the water and garden systems. She expanded the solar still network and created an irrigation system using hollowed plant stems to channel water. The garden now had multiple sections, fast-growing vegetables for quick meals, medicinal plants, and decorative flowers that Ula insisted made the place feel welcoming. She was right. The purple and orange blooms added color to the red landscape. Click handled logistics and efficiency optimization. The Hiver created detailed maps, established supply caches at strategic locations, and calculated the optimal routes between key areas. Click also began documenting every technique they used, creating what would become the foundation of the resort's training manual. Alex coordinated everything while continuing to build. The Welcome Center grew more impressive each day. He added a seating area with cushions made from woven plant fibers. He created a demonstration kitchen area where he cooked meals that proved you could eat well even in harsh conditions. He even built a small stage area where he gave daily presentations about survival philosophy. Survival is not about suffering, Alex explained during one presentation, speaking to the monitoring cameras he knew were watching. Survival is about adaptation. Humans learned long ago that mental health is as important as physical health. If you are miserable, your judgment suffers. Your motivation drops, your immune system weakens. But if you are comfortable even in a difficult situation, you think clearly, you work efficiently, you actually survive better. He paused for effect. That is what we offer here. Not just survival, but survival with dignity, with comfort, with style, because that is the human way. The galaxy watched and opinions shifted. The mockery turned to curiosity. The curiosity turned to interest. The interest turned to demand. Gron the Plutonian merchant sent another message on day 20. I represent a consortium of investors. We have studied your operation extensively. We wish to make a formal offer. If you successfully complete the challenge, we will provide funding to develop Red Rock into a commercial resort. Profit-sharing arrangement to be negotiated. Respond if interested. Alex responded immediately. Very interested. See you on day 30. The council was in constant emergency sessions now. The crystal being had developed what might have been a nervous tic, flickering erratically. The fog being kept condensing and expanding in patterns that suggested distress. The four-armed council member just looked tired. The Galactic Tourism Board has filed a formal inquiry, the four-armed one reported. They want to inspect the site. Multiple governments are asking about territorial rights to the planet. We have received 47 complaints about the challenge being corrupted and 230 requests for how to sign up for the resort when it opens. This was meant to be a solemn test of survival ability, the crystal being said. How did it become a commercial venture? The human did not break any rules, the fog being pointed out. We established the parameters. Build whatever you want. Use available materials. Complete 30 days. The human is doing exactly that. We failed to specify that enjoying yourself was forbidden, because we never imagined anyone would enjoy themselves, the four-armed one said. Every other species treats this as an ordeal to endure. Only humans would see it as an opportunity. They watched the monitors as Alex taught Ula how to make decorative pottery from the red clay found in certain canyon areas. The pieces were crude but functional and surprisingly artistic. Alex explained to the camera that guests could take home handmade souvenirs. "We have lost control of our own challenge," the crystal being said flatly. "No," the fog being corrected. "We have discovered that control was an illusion. The human has shown us that survival is not about suffering through hardship. It is about adapting so well that hardship becomes manageable, perhaps even enjoyable. That is a more impressive demonstration than simple endurance." Day 23 brought an unexpected visitor. One of the participants who had quit earlier had paid to come back as an observer. A wealthy Drycon merchant arrived via private shuttle, landing near the main zone. The council, overwhelmed by everything else, had approved it without thinking. The Draken's name was Salis, and she walked into Alex's welcome center looking both embarrassed and curious. "I quit on day 9, she admitted. "I could not handle the heat and the thirst. I felt like a failure. But then I watched the rest of the challenge from my ship. I watched what you built, how you helped others, how you made this terrible place look almost beautiful. I had to see it in person." Alex showed her around. The shelter with its cool interior, the garden producing fresh food, the water system, the scenic viewpoints he had marked with stacked stone cairns, the entertainment area where they gathered in the evenings to tell stories. Salis touched the woven door of Alex's personal shelter with reverence. "If I had known these techniques, I would not have quit. You make it look easy." "It is not easy," Alex said honestly. "It is still hot. The water collection is still daily work. The predators are still dangerous. But knowing how to be comfortable makes it manageable. That is what we want to teach. Not that survival is easy, but that it is achievable with the right knowledge and attitude." Salis looked at him with something like awe. "You are going to change how the galaxy views survival challenges. You know that, right?" Alex smiled. "That is the plan. Want to invest?" She laughed. "I will talk to my financial advisors. But yes, probably. This is too good an opportunity to miss." As Salis's shuttle departed, Alex gathered his team. 7 days remained. 7 days to perfect everything. 7 days until the galaxy would arrive to judge what they had built. Brett cracked his knuckles. "Let us make sure they are impressed." Ula splashed water in excitement. "Let us make sure they are amazed." Click's eyes gleamed. "Let us make sure the probability of success reaches 99%. Alex looked at his unlikely team, his beautiful harsh home, and the future he could see forming. "Let us show them what humans do best. Turn challenges into opportunities, turn survival into success, and turn a death world into paradise." The galaxy was watching. Soon it would be visiting. Day 24 started with Breck having an artistic crisis. The large saurian stood in front of the welcome center, staring at the entrance with his arms crossed and his tail twitching in agitation. "The stone arrangement is wrong," he announced. "It does not properly convey strength and safety. It looks too casual." Alex, who was working on final touches to the demonstration kitchen, looked up in surprise. "Since when do you care about aesthetics?" "Since I realized that first impressions matter for this resort concept," Breck grumbled. "If I am going to be head of security, I want visitors to immediately feel protected when they see the entrance. These stones suggest protection, but weakly. I can do better." By midday, Breck had completely redesigned the entrance with stones arranged in a pattern that somehow managed to look both welcoming and formidable. Alex had to admit it was impressive. The Saurian had a natural talent for security architecture. Ula was equally busy with her own project. She had discovered that certain flowers only bloomed in the evening, and had carefully transplanted them around the dining area. "Atmosphere is important," she explained. "People remember experiences that engage all their senses. The flowers smell beautiful at sunset. That is when we should serve the welcome dinner." Click, meanwhile, had created what might have been the most organized inventory system ever developed with primitive materials. Using colored stones, carved wooden markers, and a complex arrangement of strings, the Hiver had cataloged every resource within a 10-kilometer radius. Anyone could follow the system to find water, food, building materials, or scenic locations. "Efficiency reduces stress," Click stated. "Stress reduces enjoyment. Therefore, maximum efficiency equals maximum enjoyment. The logic is sound." Alex watched his team work with growing pride. They had become more than just fellow survivors. They were business partners. friends, a family formed in the harsh red sand of an unforgiving planet. The remaining 5 participants who had not quit wandered over throughout the day, drawn by the activity. Most had been surviving adequately using techniques learned from Alex, but they had not invested the same energy into making the place comfortable. Now they looked around at the transformed landscape with a mixture of respect and envy. "You are going to pass this challenge with the highest rating ever recorded," one participant said, a methane-breathing being named Foss. "The council will have to acknowledge your success." "I am not trying to beat the challenge," Alex replied, adjusting the seating area. "I am trying to redefine what the challenge means. There is a difference." Day 27 brought the first official inspection. 3 council members arrived in person, descending from their transport with the kind of reluctance that suggested they were expecting disaster. Instead, they found Alex waiting at the welcome center with refreshments and a presentation outline. The crystal being looked around at the gardens, the shelters, the well-marked paths, and the surprisingly comfortable seating areas. "This is not what we expected." "Good," Alex said cheerfully. "Come on, let me give you the tour." He walked them through everything, showed them the basic survival shelters that could be built in a few hours for emergencies, demonstrated the intermediate designs that balanced comfort and efficiency, led them to the deluxe area where his personal shelter stood as proof that you could have genuine luxury with primitive materials. Breck demonstrated the security systems and predator management techniques. Ula showed off the water collection network and the thriving gardens. Click presented the logistics maps and efficiency calculations. The council members said little during the tour, but their body language spoke volumes. The crystal being stopped flickering erratically, the fog being expanded in patterns that suggested interest. The 4-armed one actually smiled. At the end, they sat in the demonstration dining area as the sun set. Alex served a meal he had prepared: roasted root vegetables, seasoned lizard meat, a salad from garden greens, and a dessert made from local berries. It was simple food, but it was good food. Most importantly, it was food that proved you could eat well anywhere if you knew how. "This changes everything," the crystal being finally said. "We established the Galactic Survival Circuit 3,000 years ago to test if species could endure hardship. You have proven that humans do not just endure. You transform. You adapt so completely that hardship becomes comfort. That is a form of strength we did not anticipate." "So what happens now?" Alex asked. The 3 council members looked at each other. Some kind of silent communication passed between them. Then the fog being spoke. "The Galactic Tourism Board will arrive on day 30. They will conduct their own inspection. If they approve, and I believe they will, this location will be licensed as the first official survival resort in galactic history. You will be granted primary operator rights, subject to safety regulations and profit sharing with the council." Alex tried to keep his expression professional, but joy was leaking through. "And the others?" He gestured to Breck, Ula, and Click. "They helped build this. They are part of this." "Standard business partnerships will be honored," the 4-armed council member said. "You may form whatever organizational structure you wish. The council only requires that safety standards are maintained, and that the original survival challenge remains available for those who wish to take it traditionally." "We can work with that," Alex said, then looked at his friends. "You hear that? We are officially in business." Breck tried to look fierce and proud but could not quite hide his excitement. Ula made happy bubbling sounds and splashed water everywhere. Click's antennae vibrated in what Alex had learned meant satisfaction. The last 3 days passed in a blur of final preparations. Word had spread across the galactic networks that something unprecedented was happening. The viewership for the final day was projected to break every record. Day 30 arrived with perfect weather, as if the planet itself had decided to cooperate. The transport ship that would normally extract the participants was joined by a much larger vessel, carrying the Galactic Tourism Board, several journalists, and Gron the Plutonian merchant with his investment consortium. Alex stood at the welcome center entrance, his team beside him. 27 days of sun exposure had darkened his skin. His clothes were worn but clean. He looked healthy, confident, and genuinely happy. The delegation descended with professional skepticism. The head of the tourism board, a being that resembled a floating jellyfish with golden tentacles, drifted forward. "We have reviewed the monitoring footage," the being said in a voice like wind chimes. What you have accomplished here defies conventional wisdom about survival challenges. We must see for ourselves if it is legitimate or merely clever camera work. It is completely legitimate, Alex said. Let me show you. The tour took 3 hours. Alex demonstrated every technique, answered every question, and showed them both the challenges and the solutions. The delegation saw the predators from Breck's safe observation points. They tasted the food from Ula's gardens. They consulted Click's efficiency maps. They tested the solar stills and examined the shelters. Most importantly, they saw that everything was real. This was not staged comfort. It was genuine adaptation, proof that intelligence and creativity could turn a death world into a home. As the sun reached its highest point, the tourism board head called everyone together. The golden tentacles glowed slightly, a sign of official pronouncement. The Galactic Tourism Board hereby grants provisional licensing for Red Rock Survival Resort, pending completion of standard safety protocols and infrastructure development. This license is the first of its kind. May it not be the last. The delegation applauded. The journalists recorded everything. Gran stepped forward with contracts ready for signature. Other investors lined up to make offers. But Alex barely noticed the business chaos erupting around him. He was looking at his 3 friends, all of them grinning or making their species equivalent expressions of joy. We did it, Ula whispered. We survived, Breck added. We exceeded all probability models, Click stated. We built something new, Alex finished. And we are just getting started. The Crystal Council member approached, flickering in a pattern that might have been approval. You passed the survival challenge, human. You earned your trade agreements. But you also changed the challenge itself. Future participants will see what you built and know that survival is not about suffering. It is about adapting with intelligence and creativity. That is the human way, Alex said simply. We do not just survive environments. We make them ours. As everyone celebrated, as contracts were signed and deals were made, as the galaxy watched and wondered, Alex took a moment to walk back to his original shelter. He sat on his porch, the one he had built on day 2 when everyone else was still figuring out how to find water. He looked out at the red canyons, the harsh, beautiful landscape that had tried to kill him and instead became his home. 30 days ago, this was a challenge to endure. Now it was a business to build. Tomorrow it would be a destination that others would pay to experience. Humans had gone to space to find resources and trading partners. But along the way, they were teaching the galaxy something more important. That survival was not about suffering through hardship. It was about refusing to let hardship define you. Alex smiled at the setting sun and began planning the grand opening. They had 3 months before the resort would officially open to guests. So much to do. Permanent structures to build. Staff to train, marketing campaigns to launch. But right now in this moment he just enjoyed the view from his porch and thought about how a simple survival test had become something so much more. The challenge was over. The real work was about to begin, and Alex could not wait. 3 months after passing the survival challenge, Alex stood in what used to be an empty landing zone and watched the first guests arrive. The transformation was remarkable. Where there had once been only red sand and sharp rocks, there now stood a proper reception building made from local stone and imported materials. The design was Alex's, blending survival aesthetic with genuine comfort. The first shuttle landed with a hiss of engines. Out stepped a family of Tideborn, their skin shimmering with excitement and nervousness. Behind them came a group of young Saurians looking for adventure. Then a pair of elderly Hyvern who had specifically requested the luxury package because they wanted to prove you were never too old for challenges. Ula greeted them at the entrance, her blue skin glowing with professional warmth. She wore a uniform that Alex had designed, practical but stylish with the resort logo embroidered on the shoulder. The logo showed a shelter against canyon walls with a sunset behind it. Exactly as Alex had sketched on day 7, "Welcome to Red Rock Survival Resort," Ula announced, her voice carrying the enthusiasm of someone who genuinely loved her job, where survival meets style. "Please follow me to the Orientation Center." The Orientation Center was a larger version of the original Welcome Center, with comfortable seating, climate control powered by solar panels, and displays showing the resort's 3 experience levels. Breck stood at the front looking impressively official in his security uniform. "I am Breck, head of safety and security," he announced in his growling voice. Before you begin your adventure, we must discuss the rules. This planet is beautiful, but it is not tame. We have made it comfortable. But comfort is not the same as safe. Listen carefully and you will have the experience of a lifetime. Ignore the rules and you will have a very different kind of experience. Alex watched from the back of the room, smiling at how professional Breck had become. The Saurian had discovered he loved teaching, especially when his students looked at him with appropriate respect and fear. The safety briefings were thorough, entertaining, and effective. 0 incidents so far, and Breck intended to keep it that way. After orientation, guests chose their experience level. The Tideborn family selected Survival Light, which included a pre-built shelter, regular meals, guided activities, and plenty of staff support. The young Saurians picked True Test, which was as close to the original challenge as the council would allow, though with emergency support available. The elderly Hivern surprised everyone by choosing Ultra, the hardest difficulty level that Alex had designed to be even more challenging than what he had faced. We did not get old by being cautious. One of them buzzed. Show us your worst. Click appeared beside Alex holding a datapad that tracked bookings, resources, and efficiency metrics. First week is fully booked. Second week is 78% full. Third week is filling rapidly. Revenue projections exceed initial estimates by 42%. Happy guest talk, Alex said. Word of mouth is our best advertising. Correct. Additionally, we have received inquiries from 12 other planets about consultation services. They wish to develop their own survival resorts using our model. Alex had been expecting this. The success of Red Rock had proven the concept. Now everyone wanted in. Set up meetings for next month. After we have finished the first full season and worked out all the problems. Logical approach, Click agreed. The 3 months since day 30 had been intense. Alex and his partners had worked with architects to design permanent structures that maintained the survival aesthetic while meeting safety codes. They had hired staff from species that had passed the survival challenge, people who understood both hardship and hospitality. The resort now had multiple zones. The comfort zone featured solid buildings with real beds, running water, and prepared meals. But the materials and designs were all drawn from survival techniques. Guests learned skills while enjoying amenities. The challenge zone was closer to the original experience, with minimal support and real survival requirements. The extreme zone was for serious adventurers who wanted bragging rights. Every zone had Breck's security monitoring, Ula's water and agriculture systems, and Click's efficiency networks. The original shelters that Alex and his team had built were preserved as historical sites. Guests could visit and see where it all started. Gron the Plutonian merchant had invested heavily, and now served as chief financial officer. He had a natural gift for pricing structures and profit optimization. We are not just selling survival, he often said. We are selling transformation. People arrive as tourists and leave as survivors. That story is worth premium pricing. By the end of the first week, Alex knew they had succeeded beyond his original vision. The Tideborn family sent messages to their friends showing pictures of the children building their first solar still. The young Saurians were posting videos of themselves thriving in conditions their ancestors would have fled. The elderly Hivern completed the Ultra Challenge and immediately booked another visit, this time bringing their grandchildren. But the real vindication came from an unexpected source. The Galactic Survival Circuit Council announced they were expanding the concept. 4 more challenge planets would be developed as survival resorts. Each would maintain the traditional challenge for those who wanted it, but would also offer the resort experience Alex had pioneered. You have changed 3,000 years of tradition in 3 months, the Crystal Council member told Alex during an official visit. Some of our colleagues are angry about it, but most recognize that you have made the circuit relevant again. Participation requests are up 500%. Species that previously avoided the challenge are now eager to try. You have proven that teaching survival is more valuable than simply testing it. Alex accepted the compliment but deflected credit to his team. I just had an idea. Breck, Ula, and Click made it real, and the guests are the ones who prove it works every day. Month 2 brought new challenges. A storm damaged some structures in the challenge zone. A guest in the extreme zone sprained an ankle and had to be extracted. A minor food shortage occurred when a delivery shuttle was delayed, but the team handled everything smoothly. Breck's security protocols meant the injured guest was reached and treated within minutes. Ula's agricultural knowledge let them supplement with local plants until the delivery arrived. Alex's disaster planning meant they had backup supplies and procedures for every situation. The problems became selling points. Guests appreciated knowing the resort took safety seriously. Stories of real adventure with real support spread across the networks. The resort's reputation grew from interesting experiment to premier adventure destination. Month 3 saw the resort fully mature into its identity. Regular guests started returning, sometimes bringing friends or family. A culture developed among survivors, people who had completed the challenges and wore their accomplishment with pride. The resort started selling merchandise, shirts, tools, survival manuals, even the decorative pottery that Ula had started making. Alex stood on his original porch one evening, watching the sunset over the canyons he now knew better than anywhere else. The view was the same as day 1, but everything else had changed. Where he had once struggled alone, families now laughed together. Where predators had hunted, trained guides now led safe observation tours. Where survival had been a test of endurance, it was now a celebration of adaptation. Breck joined him, settling onto the reinforced bench with a satisfied grunt. Second shuttle arrives tomorrow with VIP guests. Government officials from the Talgron system. They want to experience the resort before deciding whether to develop their own. Let them try Ultra, Alex suggested. Politicians should understand real challenge. Already suggested. They requested Comfort Zone. Breck laughed. Politicians. Ula appeared next, carrying drinks made from local ingredients. The new garden expansion is producing well. We will have fresh food for all zones by next week. No more supplement deliveries needed. Click was last, as always, checking multiple tasks before joining social activities. Annual profit projections are stable. We will reach investment return targets 6 months ahead of schedule. Expansion to additional planets is financially viable. They sat together as the sun painted the canyon walls in shades of orange and red. 4 beings from different worlds brought together by a challenge, bonded by shared success. The unlikely family that had built something unprecedented. You know what I realized? Alex said, breaking the comfortable silence. When I signed up for the survival challenge, I thought I was just trying to get trade agreements for my company. I thought it was about proving humans could endure hardship. And now? Ula asked. Now I understand it was about showing what happens after you endure. Anyone can suffer through 30 days. That is just stubbornness, but turning those 30 days into something beautiful, something that helps others, something that lasts, that is the real test. That is what makes humans special. We do not just survive, we build. Breck raised his drink. To building. Ula clinked her glass against his. To transformation. Click's antennae vibrated in agreement. To exceeding probability models. Alex smiled and raised his own glass. To proving that the best response to a challenge is not just to pass it, but to change what the challenge means. They drank as the stars began to appear. The same stars that had watched Alex struggle on day 1. But the planet below those stars was different now. It was still harsh, still dangerous, still demanding, but it was no longer just a test to endure. It was a home, a business, a destination, a proof of concept that would spread across the galaxy, changing how species thought about survival, challenge, and the space between hardship and comfort. Alex had turned a 30-day survival test into a luxury resort and charged entry fees. But more importantly, he had turned a death world into a place where beings came to find themselves, test themselves, and discover that survival was not about suffering. It was about refusing to let the environment define you, about adaptation so complete that hardship became manageable, about taking the tools and skills your species gave you and using them not just to endure but to thrive with style. That was the human way. And now, thanks to Alex and his team, it was becoming the galactic way too. Across the resort, in all 3 zones, guests settled into their shelters for the night. Some slept in comfortable beds with climate control. Some slept on primitive bedding they had woven themselves. Some slept under open stars with only a survival blanket. But all of them slept knowing they were part of something special. They were learning what a human had proven on this very ground, that the difference between surviving and thriving was not about the environment you faced. It was about the attitude you brought to facing it. And somewhere in the galaxy, on planets harsh and beautiful, others were taking notice. The resort empire was just beginning. The human way of turning challenges into opportunities, tests into triumphs, and survival into success was spreading. Alex looked out at his empire, built from red sand and human stubbornness, and smiled. They had started with one shelter and one idea. Now they had changed galactic culture. Not bad for a 30-day survival test. Not bad at all.